hi, everybody. My name is Matt Storrs, and when I was 13 years old, I got confirmed in my church, and I was looking for any excuse to stop going. And my brothers had gotten confirmed as well, and they very quickly stopped going to church. And I felt like I had met my quota because I went to a religious middle school. I went to church there every Wednesday, and then I also went to church every Sunday and through getting confirmed. But my dad had learned some things from my brothers, and he figured out a couple ways to keep me going to church. His first attempt was to let me roast the sermons during church. So I would lean over to him and make fun of the sermons. I called it Mystery Gospel Theater 3000. And that got too embarrassing. So he came up with another idea. He talked to Jack. Jack was a 75-year-old man who used to be a baker, who had these square glasses and really greasy, patted down, he used pomade. He looked like he had just come out of the 50s and had never changed his style. And he ran the refreshments after each service. And since I had an interest in baking, he's like, hey, Matt, why don't you start helping Jack? Since, he's so old, he's 75, he's having trouble carrying the stuff. That would be great. And I was comfortable with that because it got me out of church 15 minutes early. That's only 45 minutes at church. Great deal. And so the first day, it became really clear that Jack and I haven't even looked at my, that's kind of what I look like. I hadn't even, with Jack, there's a communication barrier because he's 75, I'm 13 years old, and very quickly I mess up. I drop a tray of cookies. And he's like, Matt, don't worry about it. And I'm like, what do you mean don't worry about it? I'm gonna lose this gig and I'm gonna have to go back to church. He's like, it's fine, I forgive you. We'll just put another sheet of cookies in the oven and it'll be fine. Just do me a favor though. Just say something nice at my funeral. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I can do that. That's how I'm gonna get out of this, it's fine. And didn't really think about how weird it was that a 75-year-old was asking a 13-year-old to say something nice at his funeral, but sure. But I realized that was kind of Jack's catchphrase. And so anytime he offended somebody or somebody offended him, he would say, just say something nice at my funeral. And he was, a very conservative guy in comparison to our very liberal church. And so he was butting heads with people pretty consistently. But he would be like, hey, I'm sorry, I got a little bit heated. Please forgive me. Just say something nice at my funeral. Or if somebody yelled at him about something, he would take him aside and be like, hey, got kind of heated. I'm really sorry. I'll say something nice at your funeral. What the heck, And over the course of that next year, high school started. And I was playing sports and I was doing more and more at church. But after a while, it became clear that Jack was slowing down more and more, and so they decided to bring somebody else in, an actual adult, to help him with all the baking and everything like that. So my role got more and more reduced as the year progressed, and eventually it hit a point where I was like, yeah, I'm just not going to go back to church. A couple years later, I was at high school, and Jack's granddaughter, who was a friend of mine, came up to me and let me know that Jack passed away. And she was like, hey, would you and your dad be interested in being ushers at his funeral? And I said, sure, yeah, I would love to do that. And so we go, and I get dressed up, and I'm handing out the pamphlets to everybody that's coming in, and I hand out one set of pamphlets, and then another set of pamphlets, and then another set of pamphlets, and eventually we have to go to the church's printer and print out new pamphlets because so many people show up. And at this point, I had only really been to church at Christmas and Easter over the last couple of years, and so even in comparison to that, there are 3 times as many people than any church service I've ever been to. Just standing room only in my church. And Jack's daughter goes up, she gives an unbelievable eulogy. And our pastor goes up and he just says unbelievably nice things about him. And he ends it with, if anybody has anything they want to say, please take this opportunity, come up to the microphone, and say something. So his granddaughter goes up and she says something unbelievably beautiful. Everything's unbelievably beautiful this day. And then one of her friends goes up and she's crying and she says these nice things about Jack. And then another person goes up and another person goes up. And I look and there's now a line snaking through the church of people waiting to say something about Jack. And the daughter gets up and is like, hey, everybody, really appreciate what you're trying to do here, but we didn't rent the church for long enough for all of you to say something. So please. And then our pastor gets up, does one of the nicest things I've ever seen. And he's like, hey, we'll stay open as long as you need. I'm not going to charge you any more. Everybody can say something if they want to say something. It's the longest church service I've ever been to. And so many people talked that day that eventually my dad pulls me aside and, does his own version of the Mystery Gospel Theater 3000. And is like, hey, so Matt, are you going to say anything? And I'm like, no, I don't want to say anything. I don't feel like it. And I think back on that now and I feel kind of regret and frustrated with myself for doing that because I had made a promise to Jack that I was going to do that. Just like so many other people at his funeral were doing. And I can think about the reasons why that I was anxious, that it was people were saying things that were similar to what I was going to say and was going to be redundant and all of these different things. And, over time, I've been able to forgive myself because I think that's what Jack would have wanted. But I realize also that hearing this story for the first time, many of you might also be frustrated with that younger version of me. And so if you are one of those people and you're upset right now about that, I would just ask that you forgive me and that we just agree to say something nice at each other's funerals. Thank you.